everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. This is going to be really fun. We are going to deep dive into the world of exclusive limited edition vinyl pressings, exclusive records. What are they and are they worth it? You're not going to want to miss this. In order to help discuss the topic of limited edition vinyl pressings, I've got a stack of limited edition vinyl pressings right here. Now, it's important at the outset to differentiate between the different types of limited edition because that's a somewhat nebulous term. It can mean different things. So as we go through this, I'll explain exactly what the difference is. The two main categories are records that would not exist at all if it weren't for the limited edition, or records that do exist in some other form but were pressed or created in a limited edition way so you could have an additional alternate version. Okay, so this is Dolly Parton's The Monument Singles Collection 1964 to 1968. This is a prime example of a record that, if it weren't for this limited edition pressing, wouldn't exist. This isn't an album that exists in any other way. This is the only way and the only time it was created. In fact, this was a 2024 Record Store Day exclusive. A lot of the Record Store Day exclusives are where people are going to encounter for the first time limited edition records. So what they did is they took a bunch of her singles and they made an album out of it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have existed. So this is a fun way to, let's say you've collected Dolly Parton all your life. You've got everything. There's nothing else to have, but you want something else. This would be a great way to do it because, like I said, it doesn't exist anywhere else. There's no alternate version of this. And before this was pressed and sold last year, it didn't exist. So this is a fun way for collectors of a certain artist to really dig in on somebody that they've collected for some time and really have something new. And, obviously they can charge whatever they want. One of the things I want to talk about as I go through this are the prices. Now, in this case, there's no alternative. You can't go get a regular version or this. It's this or nothing. Unless you collected all of the Monument singles. They show some of those right there. And if you have that, then, you may not want this. Or you may want it anyway because they're remastered and all this stuff. Plus, you get the memorabilia, the pictures, and, whatever else they include in it. And, this was, I think, a $39 record, somewhere around there. And, it's probably going to be on the higher end price of records. Like one of these Record Store Day records is going to probably cost more than you will spend, just going to Walmart and getting any random record. But you're paying for the exclusivity, something that really is new, something that's really unique. Another similar example would be this Ernest Tubb record, which incidentally happens to be the Record Store Day release I got this year. And this did not exist in any form or fashion until it was made for Record Store Day. One thing that I find interesting is nowhere on any of the Record Store Day records that I've seen before does it say Record Store Day anywhere on the actual jacket or record itself. There will be hype stickers. We'll look at a couple of those in a minute that'll say Record Store Day, but interesting they don't do it even though the pressing was made and created specifically for that. So this combines a couple of things. And as I show you these records, we're going to slowly be evolving from one type that I explained earlier to another. So first of all, this did not exist until this special edition was created, this special release. These are radio broadcasts, essentially. And in addition to just having it be that, they also put it on this cool color, this kind of lime green color, which looks really cool. In fact, I had forgotten that this, until I was getting ready for the show, I forgot that this was pressed in this color, but it's very cool. It's something unique. It's got some little black swirls in there. Every one will be slightly unique as the pellets kind of get settled into wherever they're pressed. So no two are exactly alike. And so it's exclusive in the sense that it didn't exist before. It was a Record Store Day exclusive pressing, and they pressed it as color. Now, there's no alternate version. There's no, like I said before, these records that we're looking at now, they only exist in this form. So there's no black vinyl version. I also want to take this brief opportunity to address a couple of things. One is you'll see often with new releases and exclusive releases, 180 gram vinyl. What does that mean? It just means that they use 180 grams worth of vinyl in pressing the record. So it's a thicker record. Most records are like 120, 130 grams, and obviously 180 gram is 180 grams. So it's thicker, it's heavier. The idea is it would be less prone to warpage. My experience is I've never been impressed with the idea or the experience of 180 gram vinyl. To me, they warp just as easily as thinner records. They don't sound any better. And if you get some crazy like 200 gram pressings, I've heard that they can be so thick that the grooves don't get stamped as deeply and can actually suffer in terms of sound quality. Now, I've never had a 200 gram record before, but so for me, 180 grams, like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But I'm not like, oh my gosh, I got to get the 180 gram version. It's just a thicker record is all it is. So yeah, it's a fun one for sure. This, again, probably around that $39 price point, but they can price it whatever they want because it didn't exist before. The other thing as I get this packed back up is I want to talk briefly about colored records. Now, I love colored records. I think they should all be something. I think black records, it's, they're fine, but they're boring to me. I want to see something that's, visually pleasing more so than just a black vinyl record. Now, some people say, well, black sounds better and all this stuff, and that sounds like hogwash, and I would tend to think that that's hogwash. However, what I have recently learned is that the melt point of a black record is higher than, like, say, a red vinyl record. And what that means is polyvinyl chloride, PVC, or vinyl is a thermoplastic, meaning that it melts when it gets hot enough. And in order for them to press a black vinyl record, the presses have to be heated to a higher temperature in order to do that. And for like a red vinyl record, that melt point is a lot lower. So they have to cool the presses down. So it does change some of the principles of the record, but is that ever going to matter to you? I would think not, because, even though the needle going around and around does generate a minute amount of heat, it's not going to, melt your record because it's red or black. So, again, these are everything in the world of vinyl records. If you haven't figured this out already, is very subjective. So what is true to me may be different for somebody else. There are some hard facts, and I try to keep the show focused on those things, but there's a lot of opinions floating around out there. This record did not exist in any other form as a picture disc. It did exist in another form as a non-picture disc. So this is, I believe, their second album, 1982 Devo album. And it is never existed as a picture disc until now. So in the sense that it used to be just a black vinyl record, a regular release, it existed, but not in this form, thereby making this a limited edition. So here are some of those hype stickers that I was talking about. The only time I leave these on is in the case of a picture disc, which is in one of these thicker plastic sleeves. Some people like to take the picture discs out of these sleeves as soon as they buy them and put them in a regular sleeve, which I've done before, and then in some cases I just keep it. Now, I know it's this material, I think this is like a TPU plastic, isn't ideal, but in my experience, it's fairly gentle on the record surface. Plus, it allows you to see exactly what it is, and it's fine to leave those on there. Now, if you buy a record that has like shrink wrap and there's hype stickers on, that I always take the shrink wrap off because the shrink wrap can continue to contract and can warp your record. So I just lose those. But yeah, so this was Record Store Day from a few years ago. It's got the Record Store Day exclusive foil hype sticker on there, as well as this hype sticker. This is a limited edition of 5,500. And $25 is what I paid for this. I bought this in a record shop in Castle Rock, Colorado. I remember that day. Now, talking about the exclusivity, is it worth it? If I already have the regular Devo, album, do I need to go purchase this picture disc? And that's totally up to you. It's totally subjective. Part of the fun of physical media is that there is an element of exclusivity. Even with a regular non-special edition record, just a regular mass-produced record, there is a finite amount that are produced. It may be millions, but there's a finite amount. When you're streaming audio, when you're talking about MP3s, because it's not a physical asset, there is no count on how many exist. You know, there's nothing special. You don't have anything. You have some code. You know what I mean? Whereas if you have any piece of physical media, you have something. And that's part of the fun. Like, can I get a copy? Can I find a copy? You know, how do I get a hold of it? And it's before the internet that was even a lot harder than, you know, it is today. Adding to things, a lot of these will be pressed in limited quantities to hype up the exclusivity. As you can see, 5,500, I really need to trim my nails, 5,500 copies exist in the world. That's not a lot. There's a lot more Devo fans that exist than 5,500. I'm sure they number in the millions. So something to be aware of. Here's the backside. Isn't that cool? So in this case, for 25 bucks, I got a copy of the album, B, something that's fun and visual, and something that's pretty dadgum, you know, limited. Remember the craze for getting a Wii, a Nintendo Wii? They were hard to find. And then later, like the PS5, it wasn't just like, can you buy one if you have the money? No, you couldn't find one. Like they made them they released them in limited quantities to make them desirable. Like, I know a guy who found one. He's got 3. He'll sell them. You know, the whole idea of creating that urgency, that exclusivity, really definitely helps sales, I would say. But it's also fun. It makes it fun to be like, I got a copy. There's only 5,500 of these, and I own one of them. Okay, now we move over to the category of records that do exist in another form, but these are exclusive or limited edition versions. That's right, I whipped out Mariah Carey's Merry Christmas album. I love the videos that are already showing up online that she's coming out of hibernation, etc., etc. So Walmart and Target are now major players in the vinyl landscape. And I think that's great. You know what I mean? The whole craze of vinyl records and the resurgence of vinyl has made it that we can go to Walmart and buy records. That's crazy. So there'll be exclusive editions that you can get at those retailers. This is a Target exclusive. It's no longer available. In fact, this was purchased used for me as a Christmas present. And as you can see, this is arguably the coolest looking record in my collection, I think. This is a Columbia release, legacy label, but it is pressed on this clear vinyl record with a red, green, and white splatter, which means that the puck was primarily clear PVC and there were pellets of various colors mixed in there. And again, every pressing will be slightly unique, but is that not gorgeous? That is so, so cool. There's a regular black vinyl version of this, of course. In fact, if you were to go purchase it today, it would be the black vinyl version until they come out with a new exclusive color. So the incentive here is you get something that, you know, is unique and it's fun and it adds to the visual impact of it. Everything else here is standard issue. The sleeve, the jacket, that's all standard issue. But this particular pressing is special. Also brilliant that Walmart and Target do is they price their records very affordably, oftentimes $19 up to about $30. And that price range keeps it competitive with the boring version, the black vinyl version, and allows you to get something that's exclusive. And oftentimes they sell both versions as well. You know I was going to have some Patsy Cline on here, mostly just because I have so much and so many variants and versions of things. It was inevitable. But here is the original issue of her second album, Patsy Cline Showcase. And this is available, and I want to talk about pricing a little bit here because it really does play a factor. There's choices when it comes to this side of the house of limited edition or exclusive pressings. This is available. It's somewhat harder to find this particular version with this original album cover for anywhere from, you know, you can get this for 15 to 20 bucks on eBay. It doesn't turn up in record shops. You won't find it in antique stores. You won't find it in thrift stores. But if you are a collector and you eventually discover this album and realize this is something you want in your collection, then you can have this. Again, 15 to 25-ish dollars is a fair price. And yeah, so I picked up this one. Now, I didn't first get this version of it. The very first version I got was this. In fact, this was my very first Patsy Cline record. And like I've said, if any of you can help find the very first video that this showed up in, because I think it was a free bin pull from Second and Charles, and they don't do that anymore. I wish they did. That would be cool. I would love to find that video. Some people have searched. I can't find it. We've got almost 1,500 videos now, and it's hiding out there somewhere in the archives. But anyway, this is the reissue label. So after, I think it was after she passed away, or right about that time, they reissued this album, Showcase, as Patsy Cline Showcase with the Jordanaires. You'll notice this one doesn't say with the Jordanaires, but it's the same record. It is the same playlist, the same programming, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to get into the mono versus stereo on this, but let's just talk about the very high level basics. So most of the time you're going to encounter this record, and then you'll find out, yes, there was an original version. As a collector, I want that original version. So those are the OGs of Showcase, or second album. What about the remakes? What about the exclusive new limited editions? Enter this. And you may be saying, oh, it's a new pressing of this. No, it's not, actually. This is a completely different record. And this is a caveat record. This is a pitfall that I want you to be aware of when it comes to looking for exclusive records. This is a different record than this, even though it's got the same cover, essentially. It's been touched up and color corrected, or changed, I should say. But it's essentially the same idea. They've got stereo at the same place. You'll notice it doesn't say Decca because it is not a Decca release. So let's go ahead and flip this guy over. And I want to show you the back. And for grins, I'll show you the back of the original as well. You'll see they're different. They are quite different. This one shows the original cover of that edition. And you'll also notice, like I said, there's no Decca anywhere on it. They've even removed it from this supposed historic photograph. But on the back there, it's got the liner notes. It includes the original liner notes. Again, nothing about Decca or MCA or UMG, who owns, the rights to the music. This is a European Union release, specifically Wax Time and Color. And I know that there's a lot of folks out there that have strong opinions about them, but this is a non-US release made in the EU. And the source material for these records, for these this particular release, looks very cool, by the way. It's a gorgeous record, deep red. It's a bit deeper looking in person than on camera there. They don't attempt to copy the label at all, but this is it's a quality pressing, but the source audio for this is not anywhere near even the original. So the old version of this record sounds far superior to the new. And a lot of people say that these how do I say this? These releases that are not from the original label may use questionable source material. There's rumors that they use, and I'm not saying this one specifically, but that some releases of this nature use digital audio, even compact disc audio as source material, which if you're not using like ultra high resolution, lossless DSD digital files, when it comes to mastering a record, you're not going to get anywhere near the sound quality of the analog original. Additionally, this particular one uses different versions of the song. They may have the same title, but some are perhaps live performances or alternate takes, and they throw in a couple bonus tracks which weren't included in the original. And at the end of the day, it's a cool extra thing to have, but it doesn't take the place of the originals. So it's, this is an exclusive version, and you'll pay probably more for this new record than you would for these. Both of these are the same price point, $15 to $20-ish, $25-ish tops, depending on the condition. You may pay $39 for this. You get the red color, but you're not really getting an exclusive version of this. You're getting an alternate reality version. So again, something to be aware of. I told you it was going to get confusing. And I told you at the outset that the term was very nebulous. What does an exclusive limited edition record mean? It can mean a lot of different things. Oh, but we're not done with this album yet. No. There's yet another one I want to throw in the mix. This is a legitimate, official reissue. Now, this was Vinyl Me Please's record of the month for their country music track. They have different, they can like a hip hop track where you get a hip hop record every month, or a country or a pop or whatever. And I knew that this was coming. Being a fan of this album, I wanted to get this. Now, back in the vein of some of the stuff we saw earlier, this really gives you something extra. So it replicates more closely. It is official. It's an actual Decca label. I've got the hype sticker on here, even though it's backwards because this sleeve is on backwards. It originally was on the front. But what makes this special, I got it in the original sleeve, I should have put it in a new one, is the fact that they pressed it on this incredible tri-colored vinyl. And it is 180 grams, but like I said, I don't care particularly for that. So this is a gorgeous, unique thing. You know what I mean? This is very, very special. And obviously these colors are an homage to the 3 colors of the original album cover, which they've replicated. And I think that's something very, very cool. So this was at a premium. It sells anywhere from $39 to like $45-ish at the time. It was exclusive because there was only a certain amount made. A lower run than a regular commercial pressing of a new record. I'm not sure the exact number, but there was something special because it was a quality pressing. This one used a mono. I wanted to not talk about the technical side as much, but this one used a mono master. They somehow got their hands on a mono album reel, which was not known to exist before this. And they had a well-known engineer put this together and remaster this. So it was something new and special to listen to from an auditory technical standpoint, as well as a collectability factor, the original album cover and this really cool tri-colored vinyl. So in this case, you were getting a couple of different things for that extra investment. This was a Record Store Day exclusive. The same year I got the Devo, this Madonna single. Interesting, the jacket opens at the top. 12-inch single, 45 RPM record. Nope, 33 RPM. I thought it was a 45. I do have some Madonna 12-inch 45s. And, so this was an exclusive mix that you could get. It's a movie house mix, extended version of this song. So there's, different versions of this particular song. For a Madonna collector, this would be probably appealing because it's maybe something that they didn't have, before. However, the single would have existed, but this alternate exclusive version might not have. If you're just getting started collecting Madonna, this may not be the one for you. But if you're a Madonna collector, this may be something that appeals to you. Probably cost almost as much, if not as much, as a regular album. Something interesting for sure, which is why I picked it up. If you're just beginning and collecting Madonna, you may not want to go for this very specific release right off the bat. But it's exclusive. It's a special version. This is a German pressing, apparently. Sometimes if you have an album and you find out that they're going to do a unique version, you may go back and try to find it. This is a new pressing of Def Jam recordings, the Beastie Boys, their first album, as you can see there with the jet. It's an interesting story behind this. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's unique about this. It was pressed in a snot colored record. I mean, what is that color? It's sort of like condom colored or something. I don't like that. It's like latex gloves. That's not a pleasing color, but it's different. It's 180 gram pressing. You can tell just by feeling it. And so this is a new pressing. Sometimes the new exclusive versions will just literally be a repressing of the existing master. Sometimes they'll go back and remaster it for the purposes of the reissue. But if you are a completist Beastie Boys collector, that might appeal to you. Going back to the world of Walmart records and Target records again, I want to show you a couple. This is a Target exclusive Encanto soundtrack. And this version, this Target exclusive, was pressed in this beautiful emerald green. It's going to be the same record as the black vinyl version, but if you wanted the green, you had to go to Target. Obviously, that gets you in the door, but it was something special for consumers. Also includes this poster. Some of the inserts and things, would probably be included in the original non-exclusive release as well. But it's kind of brilliant, because Walmart and Target are, doing what they can to get you in the door. So they work out these exclusive deals with record companies. And again, I don't think that the pressing itself, the quality of it, I should say, is any different. It's just a different actual copy. Here's another variant. It looks at the outset just like any old copy of the Aladdin soundtrack. However, this one is pressed in a kind of an off-white, but it looks cool. It's neat. And I appreciate the fact they didn't make this 180 grams. It's got a groove guard. You don't see that too often in new records. It's got a raised lip. So if you had this on the stacker, although it does have a flat hub, typically if you have a groove guard, you've also got a raised hub so that when they're, they're on the stacker and they fall down, there's something to protect the playing surface. That being said, it's still a cool record, and probably that groove guard is an artifact of a vintage press that was being used. But that's fun. I like there to be something different, something unique, and it's already a visual experience, a tactile experience. But to add to it colors and shapes, and because there are shaped records, it's a show for another day, and things of that nature, something unique, limited edition. I think it's very, very, very fun. Now, I'm going to finish this out with probably one of the most well-known exclusive records. I think it's probably fair to say that most of us, at some point, us being vinyl record collectors, are going to end up with these two record sets. This is, of course, the famous Red and Blue album from the Beatles, basically greatest hits albums. I went through a complete adventure of discovering the Beatles music in earnest, because obviously I knew the Beatles. I had a couple of things, but you guys really taught me what to do and how to start, because I was overwhelmed when I started collecting the Beatles. You're like, go for the Red and Blue album. Their greatest hits albums, they're a great place to start, and you get a lot of their music at the outset, and then you can kind of branch out from there and get the individual albums. So I picked these up. These are the original copies. I don't know which iteration, which pressing, but they're old, and they're in listenable but non-collectible value is probably a good way to say it. And something magical happened last year in the world of Beatles. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that they released their last new song, Now and Then. And this is where it ties into the exclusivity. There's the backside of this particular one. This is a gift from a viewer. Incredibly generous gift. I want to show this here in a minute. But in addition to releasing a new song, of which this is the single, they also re-released those very Red and Blue albums we were just looking at. And they did it in a very brilliant way. And I want to talk about two aspects. Part of what's brilliant is this. The other part that's brilliant is this. So for the Red and Blue albums, they made two different versions of the repressings. One were colored records, red and blue, obviously, that makes sense, which were only available on the Beatles store website. That's where I purchased these. And they know that everybody's got these records already, like I do even. So what's going to make somebody go out and get another copy? Of course, we're going to have it, pressed in the colored vinyl, like I said a minute ago. These are 180 gram pressings. They're gorgeous, but they added something extra, a couple something extras, actually. The first being that these are all new mixes. That has been met with some skepticism because not everybody likes the new mixes, and that's subjective. I'm not going to go down that route. For the most part, I like the new mixes. There's a couple songs that I don't think sound as good in the remix version. 2 records, obviously, because the original was a 2-record set, so this is going to be a 2-record set. And a 3rd record, so they amped it up. Why would somebody that already has the Red album go buy another copy of it? There are those that would do it anyway. But if we throw in even more music, that's going to incentivize people. And so now, if you get the newest version of the Red and Blue album, you get additional content. Look how thick that is now. So you've got all these original paper sleeves, the new poly-lined sleeves that I put in there. There's an insert in there as well. That is a hefty record. And obviously the blue is very similar. 3 records on these beautiful blue pressings, which is really, really cool. So there's the upsell. It's additional content. It's, in the case of the version sold on the Beatles website, it's an exclusive color. If you ordered on Amazon or anywhere else, you got the black vinyl version, which, like I said before, some people appreciate. If you bought them together, you also got the box, which is cool. Got the metallic stamped thing there, and they fit and look nice in this protective box. Just like that. So this was very expensive. Whereas I paid I think I paid $18 for this at a record shop, and it's in used condition, but it still sounds pretty dang good. This one I paid less, like 10 or 12 bucks on eBay. The playing surface was really good, but the labels are trash, like Water Damage City. Sounds a lot better though. These both sound really, really good. That's not a lot of money for these albums, and they're made in mass, so there's no shortage whatsoever. Whereas this exclusive version is more limited. They don't, necessarily say on the box, how many copies were made, but you pay up the nose for this with additional music, the additional record per set, the new mixes, and the Blue Album also had the new song, which is where we come to our final record of the day. Thank you for hanging with me, by the way. I know this is a long one, but there was a lot to cover. So the new song, Now and Then, they actually took a piece of wisdom from, of all places, the Taylor Swift world of music. In that, they released alternate versions of this record. So this is the clear one. Again, thank you to the viewer who sent this in. This is crazy cool. There were blue ones, there was black ones. So you could, if you were a completist, which they know a lot of Beatles fans are, I have to say when it comes to Patsy Cline, I'm a completist. So I know that a lot of you are probably completists as well. One wouldn't be enough. They would want the clear one. They would want the blue one. They would want the black one. They would want the white one. You know what I mean? And that's what Taylor Swift did for her recent albums, as there was the blue version, the red version. You know what I mean? So there was some collectability in getting multiple copies. Also genius, they put the new song, Now and Then, on the reverse of Love Me Do, their first single. So that's pretty smart. I think that's really cool. The original label as well. By the way, this sounds fantastic. 45 RPM record. Obviously a UK release here, so we've got the small hole. And this is just super, super fun stuff. But yeah, that's the world of exclusive records. So like I said at the outset, it's a very nebulous term, very subjective, and there's different records that could qualify as limited edition, exclusive editions. But what about what I asked in the intro, which is, are they worth it? Because they can cost more, they can be harder to find. Is it really worth even having a limited edition or exclusive record? And the answer for me, because I can only speak for me, is yes, a resounding yes. And the reason being is, oftentimes they're not more expensive. They can be, but there are exclusive records that aren't more expensive. B is the fact that they are exclusive and limited, and it makes the acquiring of such records more fun. And C, it adds to the overall tactile enjoyment of this, because part of the idea with records in any physical media is that we're stepping away from streaming. Streaming is so, repetitive, uniform, non-personal, non-exclusive, and not special. But if you are holding any physical media in your hand, it demonstrated some level of discipline in order to acquire it. You had to purchase it with money that you had to earn, or somebody did if they gave it to you as a gift. B, you had to go and physically find this, or somebody did. They had to get their hands on it in a physical way. And also, once you have it, and there's one less floating around out there. So every record is a limited edition to some degree. Well, there it is, you guys. I want to hear from you, your exclusive limited edition record stories. Let me know down in the comments. As always, I want to hear what your most limited special edition records are, or if you think this is a load of hogwash and it's just goofy, it doesn't mean anything, and there's no point to it, let me know your thoughts down below as well. Mostly, my friends, I just want to say a huge thank you for being there. Happy record hunting. We'll see you next time.